What's going on, y'all? This is Zach.
This is Jacob.
And this is the Instructor Podcast and YouTube channel. We're super pumped to be back. Thank you for tuning in.
Yep.
We've been having conversations about what it looks like to be to be a different private music instructor.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of years and a lot of different places kind of in the making for us, but we have launched, and we're excited to be here and help create a community of thriving, intentional, deliberate music instructors that have the heart of a student at the forefront and can lay down the things that get in the way of that. There's a lot of things that can be in the way.
I mean, I think you and I have chosen a path that not a lot of music teachers will choose. We've been very deliberate with choosing a way of teaching that not only strokes our own ego and we get to say, look at our student, look at what they do, but more that our student will say, look at my teacher, look how they care for me.
Oh man, we could riff on that for all day. That's a problem. That's a problem. And I think that stems from so many different areas. I think number one, it stems from school system, right? Because you have the promotion of first chair, the promotion of second chair, right. And then you have everybody else. And you have people who really care and people who don't. But then there's the private lesson world or private traditional music academy type situation where, it's wearing tails and dresses, and it's very creaky doors. It's very, formal, right?
Yeah.
And that formality then bleeds to expectation from the student and from what is required of that student. And then there's the hedging of bets as it kind of comes along. Yeah, it's tough. It's a problem.
It's a problem. I think the biggest thing, you and I both have so many friends who are music teachers outside of our studio.
Yeah. A lot of them.
Yeah. And it always is, this is what my best student's doing. This is what or they're crapping on, this is what my worst student does. And it's so annoying and it's blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you know what?
To be fair, we've both been those guys.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Absolutely, we have.
Yeah.
And probably recently.
Yeah, ish. I'd say ish.
Yeah, because it's hard to keep a focused mind every day and say, I'm not here for me. I am here for what's best for everyone else. And that's it's hard to make that conscious choice every single day.
Well, and pouring yourself out, right? Like it has to be an intentional cup that gets filled up. You gotta be interested in pouring into yourself, therefore for the other person.
Right.
Because when you get empty, then that's when everything starts to fall apart.
Honestly, I don't care if any of my students learn Cliffs It Over. I have a couple students that want to and that are doing that on their own time. But you and I both teach from a place of we want you to learn your instrument, and more than that, we want you to learn how to behave with other musicians and behave with other people. And outside of music, we want you to figure out how to be a good person and how does your personality fit with other people. I think of McCormick on the Monday Night Band. He's such a leader. He's 12, 13 years old, and he comes in there and he gets personalities and he understands how to organize people in a way that's going to be productive. And then I think of some of our other students who don't even know what their own personality is yet, and they're trying to fit in every which way that they can, and sometimes that leads to a difficult lesson. Sometimes it leads to an amazing lesson. I've got a girl yesterday on Mondays who is she's so funny because she thinks we argue all the time, her and I, but Claire,
right?
No, not Claire.
Not Claire. Okay.
Callie. And it's because she loves music, like, period. Like, just loves all. Like, if you ask her top 5 favorite bands, it's gonna be 5 obscure, like, very different from each other.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, she'll probably say the Beatles and Travis Scott. And you'll be like, wait, what?
Which, I mean,
but, like, we love arguing over, well, Revolver is better than the Whiteout, or whatever, whatever we're talking about. And so it was so funny that she brought me a song yesterday that she was like, I love this song, I just want to learn the song. I was like, that song's hot garbage. Get that song out of your mind, never listen to it again. She was like, this is one of my favorite songs. I was like, I don't care. And, like, we have fun. Like, we had a good time. And then Frank Ocean is another person she would say is, like, her favorite. And I showed her the interlude of Wildfire, John Mayer and Frank Ocean. And she had never heard that before. And she's like, this is going on my playlist right now. This is going on my sad playlist.
Amazing. Yeah.
And, which is fair. And then sometimes we have students like we have other days that really want they want our approval, number one, or an adult authority figure in their life, and they want us to think they're cool, whether they'll say that or not, because what they'll say is that they don't give a crap what we think, but they absolutely do.
Sure.
And they haven't necessarily had the best examples in their lives, and so or any examples in their lives possibly, and because of that they might take the approach of being a bully, or maybe for the sake of comedy saying really awful things, to think that, well, that's what the adults I know do, and so this is what I should do to fit in.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with, are they a bad kid or not? Of course they're not.
Yeah.
It just has to do with, nobody has said don't do that. And nobody has shown them a better example. I think that's where you and I are really on the same page.
Yeah.
It's like, if they're getting nothing out of guitar, bass, or drums, or singing, or whatever, but they're in here becoming a better person, we're winning.
100%. I think, like, just to hit on some subject matter there, like,
sorry, I just ranted.
Yeah, it's right. There's a lot in there. So, like, there's so many different personalities. I think we all, and everybody, like, watching online or listening, you can relate to this. There's so many different people, like, in personality types you meet across the board. You're bringing up McCormick, like, he's organized, he's driven, he knows what he's going to do with his life.
Yep. And
then I've got 15 other 13-year-olds who don't know anything that they're going to do with their life, and they don't have an upbringing that is even conducive to even really think about it.
Right.
And then you have other students who, like, this is the best day of the week, right? And we try to make this the best day of the week for all of our students, but for some, this is the only safe place.
Yeah.
For some, this is the only place that's honest. For some of our students, it's the only place that is their authentic self, because they're not judgment free at home, they're not judgment free at school, and they don't have any other place where they can just be a human. And that's something like when we first launched, one of the things that we said in our spiel, of enrolling students, was like, we want this to be a place where your student can fail forward, and your student knows that they are seen, that they're heard, that the relationship between the instructor, which at the time was just me, is going to be there for them, is going to care for them in a way that they need. And that means, from an instructor standpoint, we're always going to be who our student needs that day to the best of our ability.
Sure.
And I think that leads to, a different conversation, to the best of our ability.
Right.
And I think that's the problem. Like, and at the very end, like you said, like, we get to be the example, right? And they want our approval, or they think that we think they're cool, those types of things. But the trouble is like, for most instructors, and I can say this pretty confidently. Most instructors that I've known over the years, this is a side hustle. This is just a part-time thing. This is not the mission. This is just the
I'm only
thing
doing this until my band takes off.
Only doing this till the band takes off. Only doing this in between gigs. Oh yeah, I've got a gig this Thursday night. Right. I can't teach my 15 students I have on the docket because I've got to bounce, or I can't be at this show, for the lesson studio because I've got a gig or doing something. Like it's just everything else comes before the student. So like
and just to jump on that real quick, that's not to say that we don't love gigging and we don't love going and playing festivals and big shows and whatever, but we've been very intentional with like I run a very full gigging schedule outside of here. On days I'm not here, I'm gigging. I try to stay somewhere around 100 shows a year. And I am very specific about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I do not have gigs, period.
Because it's a priority, right?
It has to be.
Yeah.
Because, and in the same sense, if we were doing something on a Friday or Saturday night here, I will clear that gig. Because this is, for us,
this is a primary.
This is who we are.
And that's a mindset shift. That's a mindset shift. It's and you said something about stroke. Like if you bring back to the original point of like, well, like our kid can stroke our ego by being so good, and we're only here for those ones, right?
Right.
And that can't be, because if that was the case, then we're only here for us always, always and forever. It's just about us. And the truth is it's not. It's about helping another human find something they love. And even if that's not this. And it's even if they find just another human that they love, another person they know cares about them. And music it's so deep in the sense of like you're talking about Callie. She's got like all these obscure bands, right? So like I actually sent you a reel last night. It was just a John Foreman from Switchfoot playing Meant to Live. And I said, we should do this, someday.
100%.
And like, I have like severely strong connection to those guitar parts, and to like, as soon as when you hit, I'm just like, I go right back to being 15.
You know what's so funny about that is Callie and I were actually talking about what albums do we like that are no skips.
Meant to Live.
Meant to Live is one.
All day.
I didn't think about that, but Meant to Live is definitely one. Another one, and I started bringing up like albums from basically that came out the year I got my license, in the next like 2 or 3 years after. Because that's so nostalgic of like, you're in the car by yourself, you can, whatever. And so I was like, oh yeah, this Kings of Leon album and Fun and all this stuff. And she's like, what are these bands? And I didn't even think about that, but like, it's totally a nostalgia thing.
It's a nostalgia thing, and it's like your opinion. It's just like if it sounds good, it is good, right?
Yep.
If it sounds good to you, that's the only authority that you need. So music has that capability, and so since music is that, it's also that way in lesson room, right?
Yep.
Because like if today we're going to explore how to build a pedal board, we're going to explore different sounds that a keyboard makes. We're going to explore using YouTube as the resource, which YouTube's not bad. I think a lot of instructors think it's really bad. Like, dude, you can pull up almost anything from anywhere and send it to somebody, and it's helpful to them. Like, if they have context to it. But you utilize the tools at your resource. If you don't have a pedal board, but you know about it, right? Like, you can draw the diagram out and then watch somebody else go, hey, this is what this is doing. And see how he's moving that tone knob there. This is happening. This is why they have their keyboard hooked up to their computer. This is why that tom sounds better than this one. This is why you should hold your flute this way, because look how she's doing it. You see the air is hitting this lip just this way. Like, there's so many different you don't have to do the thing that you're supposed to be doing there, quotations. And I guess that's the point, is like, you're there for the student, and especially for the difficult student, for the ones that are tough, actually more so. And we've had so many just our growth trend is very high, and we have a lot of students here, a lot of personality. One of the things that I'm responsible for here is I meet with all our instructors on a weekly basis. And I say weekly, it's like we have I think like 7 instructors, and I meet with everybody once a month for a dedicated half-hour space. Jacob more so than everybody else, because we're doing this together, so we meet a lot. But well, that's one of the topics that comes up is like we had an adult student who is just really difficult, thinks they know a lot, thinks they know everything there's to know about what is happening, yet in calling things, that he's working on basic and like, no, I can learn that on YouTube. And the instructor is going, hey, you can't. Like, you got to do this over and over and over inside of repetition. And you have to like shift the focus of where the win is. And I think that's where is the win is kind of how.
So, yeah, I have a student on Monday nights who his world is Oculus, and that's it. You know exactly what I'm talking about. He does nothing but Oculus. More specifically, nothing but Gorilla Tag.
To be fair, and I have a lot of students that use that game too.
I don't know what that is.
I tried it. I wanted to know. I tried Gorilla Tag, and I will say it is hard.
Okay. Well, that's hilarious.
But to say it's the hardest thing you've ever done, that's a stretch.
So he was getting frustrated on a couple chords we were working on last night, and he's very competitive. So I put it in levels, and I put rewards at the end of each level, and I was like, if you play these chords cleanly in under 10 seconds, and you play these chords cleanly in under 10 seconds, and whatever, and different levels. He won a Reese's. He was super happy.
That's exciting.
But he was getting really frustrated over a chord, and on all of our material that we use here, we've got written at the top right corner, slow plus ugly equals awesome.
Yep. Mantra we die by.
The one thing I wrote next to that was repetition is key.
Yep.
What's your phrase about repetition?
Repetition bleeds consistency. Consistency is the mark of a professional.
Yeah. So he was getting frustrated. He was getting mad at me because I was like, all right, let's do it again. All right, let's do it again. All right, let's do it again. He's like, why are we doing this? And I pointed to the top of the paper. I said, what does that say? And he was like, repetition is butt. And I was like, okay. But what does it actually say? He was like, repetition is key. And I was like, what does this say? And he was like, slow plus ugly equals even worse. And I was like, no, what does it say? Slow plus ugly equals awesome. I'm like, right. All right. Do you understand why? He's like, no. And I was like, look, you're going to go home. You're going to practice for 5 minutes one day, maybe. But with me, and you've said this 1,000 times, I'm actually lifting this line straight out of your mouth. The most perfect practice you're going to get is with me. And we are going to hit this repetition slow and ugly until it's awesome.
Until it's awesome. Yeah.
And it kind of clicked for him for a second, and he was like, okay, but A is impossible because you can't fit 3 fingers on 1 fret. And I was like, all right, well, let's do it with 2. And I, finding workarounds for it.
Yep.
And he's super small and super skinny, so yes, he can fit 3 fingers on 1.
But fit all 4 of his fingers on there.
But so
we 22 jumbo frets.
Right. So we worked through that, and by the end of it, he was playing all 4 of those chords. He was still a little mad at me. And then of course when he left, he put on his coat and goes, bye, and runs out the door. And his dad was like, okay, well, I guess we'll see you later.
Yeah. Well, and there's different levels of difficulty, right? Like that, I'd say that's, with zero context for you, the listener, and those watching, like, very difficult student. I've had my own experiences, like trying to step in and help there, and the only way you've even gotten as far as you have with him is the relationship.
Yeah,
100%. And that took a lot for you to get over and get out of the way on.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and it would have taken me a lot to get over and out of the way of it too.
I took it as a personal failure when he started with me, of like, I can't reach this kid, so obviously I'm a bad teacher, and I should probably quit.
Yeah.
And like, it took several conversations with you to realize, like, I don't know this kid's grade. I don't know what his favorite thing at school is. I don't know what he's into. And once I switched the conversation to that, and we got to know each other, man,
It's different.
The whole lesson was different.
Well, because you turn it on its head, and I think this is why this podcast exists. You know, is that
he's not even the kid I wanted to talk about today.
There's no playbook. There's just no playbook for this.
Because everyone's so different.
Everyone's so different. And like you could go to, I went to Warren University in Florida. And I went to the music program there. But there's no option for a private music instructor.
Nope.
The only pre-qualification is that you can play your instrument. And sometimes you don't even get asked if you can play.
Right.
Right? Like, and it's so weird that like, there's just so many people out here just all willy-nilly, and parents just show up and do whatever. And it's not that you need qualification, it's that you need a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Like, I that's the most frustrating thing that to me. And I would loop myself in to this conversation like every other version of myself until now as a teacher has not been good enough. Sure. Every other version of myself has not been good enough because it wasn't about the student. I said it was, and I did things, and I taught well, and I had great interactions, and I've had some students have gone and done really cool stuff. I'm still friends with a lot of my students from years past, and they would argue differently, but I would argue to them now, I wish I could go back and be the person I am now, because who I am now wakes up without a thought for myself. As far as that lesson's concerned, right? Yeah. I just want to see them engage. And the word engage is the key there, because you could do something and they can move forward and be disengaged. They can be better and be disengaged. They could be great and hate themselves for coming here. I had a student, Emmy, and we talked about she had a tough time on stage.
Gosh, she was so adorable yesterday.
Dude.
She came down and knocked on my door, and I was like, yes. I was teaching a lesson, and she's like, Zach told me to come down here and get to know the band. And I just, like, my heart melted. I was like, oh my
She's
gosh,
so stinking sweet.
So adorable.
I don't know if her parents ever watched this, but they know. They know what I think about Emmy and what we all think about Emmy. So Emmy had a tough time at the showcase. We talked about last week on the podcast. And so, but last night, we were at the end of our lesson, and I said, I got something kind of crazy to ask you. And she's going to stop playing, and she still might. I don't know if she'll continue or not, but I go, I won't, you've got a few weeks left here. I go, why don't you stay right after your lesson and hang out with some of the band kids from the Monday Night Band? And she goes, well, why? And I go, well, I think you'd like them. And I go, and I think you could play. And she goes, I couldn't play. And she just sat there, and I go,
I'm not cool enough for rock and roll.
She sits there, and then I like, you can. And she sat there for a second, totally paused out, and she goes, you really think I could do it? And she just looks at me, and I go, I think it's who you're made to be, to do things you're afraid of. Yeah. And she goes, just pauses, her jaw just sits there, and her eyes start to well up. Like, so you just imagine what I do in there.
Oh, I know.
Oh, dude, her eyes like full on well. She goes, it's just that after the show, I just felt so bad about myself. She goes, I felt like I was bad and I was broken. Yeah. This is like a 7-year-old. Yeah. I was bad. I was broken. And I said, Emmy, you're the most perfect little girl I've ever met. And there's nothing, no note you could ever play, right, that would ever change that. I go, there's no mistake you could ever make that doesn't make you you, because you're awesome. Yeah. And she just sat there and she goes, you're the most encouraging person I've ever met in my life.
Which is true. She's right.
And I was just like, oh my God. Like, she jumped on me, gave me this big hug, And, she stayed for band. And guess what? She knocked it out of the park. I turned an orchestra setting on the Studio Logic. She's playing these string parts. And she played Never Ever Getting Back Together with the band. Yeah. And she killed it. And McCormick ran the whole band just like he always does. 13-year-old dealing with 5 other students.
Well, I know. And I was waiting on you to come down because I thought, oh, okay. But then I can vaguely hear what's happening on the floor above me. And I heard you talking to her parents. And I was like, okay, Zach's going to be a minute. Yeah. So I was like, McCormick, come here. And he was like, what? And of course, I say, McCormick, come here. And all the little girls in his band go, ooh, you're in trouble. And I was like, no, y'all are in trouble. McCormick's going to come back there and kick your butt. And McCormick goes, yeah. because he's always making his voice so low.
Yeah.
And I was like, "This is Emmy. She wants to meet the band, and I thought you would be a good person to show her around." And he immediately like turns into like leader McCormick, and he's like, "Hi, I'm McCormick. It's so nice to meet you. Here, let me," and like.
He's so good. It's stupid, this kid, man. Just watch out. McCormick H. Watch for his name. He will be known.
Yeah.
There's no way he's not going to be known.
No, he'll be even if it's just stays on a local level and he just gigs professionally. There's a lot of guys in our area who just gig full time making six figures. And
it's a thing. It's possible.
They all could be with some huge artist.
Yep.
Out there making probably the same money. But
yeah, because touring money is not what it used to be.
Right. Yeah. But it's so funny because like they're like, why would I leave the 20-mile radius of my house when I can make the same amount gigging locally? Yeah,
which calls it into a whole other conversation of like my brainchild of a tour setup, which maybe we should talk about sometime on the instructor podcast.
Your tour setup. I like it. It's just not frequent enough for me.
Yeah, because
I love being busy.
Yeah, you're a busybody. I don't like being busy, so
I know.
I got 4 kids. I'm busy enough. So I think take away, right? Like to drive it home, like this conversation is like you hear us talking about our students because we're actual teachers. Like this is something we're in the mix of, and I think the heartbeat and not the heartbeat, but the posture. The posture of a private music instructor should be one of humility and how can I help?
Yep.
Like it just like I don't care how good you are. If you can't ask the question of how I can help and actually mean it, you don't belong here.
And to add to that, we've got to stop saying, they're just a bad kid.
Oh, yeah.
They're not. And I'm not kidding. This week I've talked to friends who teach. They're like, "Oh, I've got this student. They're a bad kid. They just, and they don't mean it in a good way. They mean it like, yeah." And I can't take that. Like, I have a student who drove me crazy last week. You witnessed it, and like to the point where
he was hot.
I was furious.
He was hot.
And
he was hot.
I put on a click track. Told him to play this beat, and I said, "I'll be right back."
Yep.
I took
back in 18. Back in 18 minutes.
Back in 18 minutes.
Back in 18. You're on this groove. If you get sick of it, don't care.
And I had to take a minute, take a breath, leave the room for a second, and came back. And man, he actually gave me the most heartfelt apology.
Yeah.
He's not a bad kid. He was being a little turd.
Yep.
But, like, I don't think him and I will ever have that problem again.
No, probably not.
And
it was a consistent problem.
It was a consistent problem for a long time.
Disrespectful, and not in like we're authority and you should listen to us. No, like just like as a human.
Yeah.
Like
and
no one would have liked the interaction. Not just you. No one would have liked the interactions.
What it boiled down to, because we got talking about it. What it boiled down to is he was like, "Well, I thought we were friends, and I was just being, this is what me and my friends do." I'm like, find better friends. Find better friends.
Yeah.
Like, if you and your friends are just bullies all the time, find better friends.
Yeah. And
I don't think anyone's ever told him that. And I don't think he has a whole lot of people in his life to tell him that.
Yeah.
And the deeper I dug into it, because I dug into it more after he left and after you left and everything, talking with some other people, the more I dug into it, the more I realized there aren't really any authority figures in his life. And like, no one's ever called him on his crap. And that's why I think like we're never going to have issues again. Because I set that boundary.
Set the boundary. You actually...
And I took time to talk to him about it.
Took time. That's the thing. You can't... And when we're operating, from the day to day. The priority is the relationship between the instructor and the student and their instrument, and the instructor, student, and the parent.
Yep.
And the way that does good is like we set the expectations of what it looks like to be a student here for our families, and that is loved, valued, and cared for. And those relationships matter more than anything.
Yep.
And when we forget, because we all forget, we forget to go about it that way, and we get focused on one thing, then a problem such as communication, which is a problem we all have, a problem like that can kind of balloon, and then we start to sense it or feel it with our own eyes, right? I'm a bad teacher and a bad person because this student says these types of things to me, and I let them. Yeah. And then you come for help, and well, they didn't help me. Right. And then, so they must not care about me as an instructor. He doesn't care about, and now I'm a bad teacher, and now I'm carrying that title and label of myself into other lessons. And all of a sudden, I actually self-prophesy and become the thing I wish I was not. Right. And so it can spiral out of control that way. That's why the main thing has to stay the main thing. And then that's relationship. It's this has got to be an honest space. Your lesson booth is a holy place where there is no lie and there's only truth. Even if that truth is inconvenient for you, the instructor, pause, especially if it's inconvenient you, the instructor. It's tough. How we do this is very, very tough. But that's what we're here for. That's what we're building this community for, is to have conversations like this. Push the ball forward and let you guys know, number one, there's a better way. You don't have to go to bed and be unfulfilled. You don't have to prioritize. There's a quote, Alex Hormozy, She's like, my eyes are in the back of my head now. I actually heard this quote today. He said, you can't have comfort and growth at the same time. One is the cost for the other. And, if you're losing students, it's likely because you're choosing not to grow. You're choosing comfortable. If you're gaining students, it's likely because you're choosing to be uncomfortable. If you're losing relationships, it's because you're not choosing to put the work in. We do the work that is required. And the good work that is before us is to leave the world a better place and to inspire creativity. Look, most of our students are not going to be who any of us want them to be. They're going to get to be them. They're going to get to be them. And that is enough. That is enough. That's the benchmark to know that they're loved, valued, and cared for, that there's a person in their corner, no matter what. And when that's the case, even as frustrating and angry as it could be, even if I have to go above and beyond and do things for someone else that is inconveniencing to me, so be it. That was the work that was required. We got to get to that point. I think globally. As private music instructors, you guys, I say you guys, we charge an awful lot for a very small amount of time, and it's not worth it. You're not worth it. I'm not worth it unless we're on purpose.
There it is.
That 100%.
That's that.
Mic drop. It's like, so get to work. Figure out what it is. Look at your difficult students and go, how can I help? How can I love, value, care for this person? And So if you like the content you're hearing, if you like what we're doing, if you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, ring the bell. If you're on the podcast, make sure you leave a review. Best way to support this channel, because we're not sponsored by anybody. This is us. This is just the garage doing the thing. Is www.fortvillemusicgarage.com/shop. We got t-shirts, Chuck Taylors, all kinds of stuff, hoodies, just all kinds of stuff you can order there. It's made in-house. It is not outlet to like Teespring or something like that. We are a local shop doing the thing that you're doing at a level you probably wish you could do it at. So this is just this is what we're doing here, having a conversation. So, but love you. You are loved, valued, and cared for, and failure is your best option.
Have a great week, y'all.
Later, y'all. Peace.